The New York Giants take on the Indianapolis Colts Sunday in a win-and-in situation. Up next, I'll have matchups, who to watch, injury reports, predictions, and much, much more. Stay tuned. What's up, Giants fans? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Tommy's Takes. I'm your host, Tommy G. You could have been anywhere in the world right now, but you're here with me, and I appreciate that. Please like, subscribe, turn those notifications on. Also, check me out on Twitter at TommyG105, and please do check out my Giants Country team. Talented group of writers, podcasters, you name it. We got it. We've been here since before the season started, and we're not going anywhere. And here we go, the moment we've all been waiting for. Win and in. The three words not a lot of us thought we would hear this season. Whether you're a Giants fan, Giants hater, Giants beat reporter, content creator, winning in wasn't something that was on the agenda. I mean, who would have thunk it, right? Just a few months ago, you're coming into year one of the rebuild, brand new coaching staff, New York's third coaching staff in the last 5 years. Salary cap is strapped to the max. Huge questions across the board. And those two of those biggest question marks were Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. Jones, the fourth-year pro, had been mostly mediocre, right? Unimpressive through his first 3 seasons. 3 seasons, though, that included 2 different head coaches, 3 different offensive coordinators, bottom 10 offensive line every single year, injuries at key offensive positions, especially at wide receiver, injuries to Barkley that hindered Jones' progress. And I think Jones has done a very good job stepping up to the challenge. He is only one of 3 quarterbacks with 3,000 passing yards and 600 rushing yards. That places Daniel Jones 11th in the NFL for total quarterback yards. That's pretty damn good, especially when you consider he's playing with a bargain basement wide receiver core. He's playing behind an offensive line that has not found itself yet. Shout out to Daniel Jones. That was one of the biggest questions coming in, and he has really responded, especially the last couple of weeks. You had the Washington game where he played clutch towards the end. You had Minnesota where they basically said, here's the offensive game plan. It's on your back, Daniel, and he responded. So that was one of the big questions. Also turned the turnovers down. Hasn't had a lot of turnovers that he did much that he had his first year and a half in the league. Obviously, turnovers plagued him that first year and a half. He's cut down on the turnovers. So shout out Daniel Jones. I mean, he's a key cog in this winning-in situation. You know, he's playing tough, fearless. He kills you with his legs, smart. He makes the audible last week to Saquon Barkley on the draw play on 4th and 2 to get within 2-point conversion. So that's one of the questions that might be answered. Obviously, some important football still to play here with the Colts and Philly coming up, and then hopefully wild card game. But I mean, if you look at his resume this year, okay, you know, one knock you have on him, doesn't get a lot of passing touchdowns. But how many times has he passed the Giants into the red zone and Barkley scored a 2-yard touchdown, 3-yard touchdown, 4-yard touchdown? Not a knock to Barkley, but it's a team sport. You know, it's a classic team sport. And the other biggest question mark was Saquon Barkley. The health of Saquon Barkley. Can he stay healthy? Can he stay productive? Well, 1,600 yards almost, 10 touchdowns, absolutely carried this team. Big play after big play. And you would have to, you know, we say in 2 question marks. Another question mark is, where would the Giants be without Saquon right now? How many wins would they have? 4, 5, maybe? That's how important he's been to this team, and he's been equally as important to Daniel Jones' progression and his growth and development as a quarterback, having that playmaker right next to you, seeing him make plays, being inspired by great play. So that's another question that was an important one, and Barkley has responded flat out. Not going to say he's too long on Barkley. Obviously, the offseason will bring more important questions for Jones and Barkley, but right now they have the Giants on the cusp of their first playoff appearance since 2016. So round of applause for Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and the rest of the team. And here we go. You know, New York still has some question marks. It hasn't been all pretty. Depth in the secondary, a porous linebacking core, struggles on the interior line, O-line, below average NFL wide receiver group. Rookie Evan Neal's slow development, unfortunately, this season, which, you know, stinks because right when he was starting to get it going and starting to build up a rhythm, he got hurt. And then he came back. He's been struggling. And also a ridiculous slew of injuries has affected the Giants this season, and the defense has been decimated, especially losing their two best defensive backs in Adoree Jackson and Xavier McKinney. But good news on that front coming up. I don't want to get too ahead of it. And listen, GM Joe Shane has done a great job signing players during the season, filling holes. He's been like the captain on the Titanic, except this ship hasn't sunk. And he's filled these holes very well, whether it's a Landon Collins and Isaiah Hodgins, Jalen Smith, Fabian Moreau. That's what a great GM does. Doesn't let a season spiral out of control because of injury. He plugs the holes and keeps the ship afloat until guys get back. And the Giants got some guys coming back soon. Fantastic D-line. I mean, you can't say enough about Dexter Lawrence having an all-pro season. Leonard Williams having a great season. Kayvon Thibodeau in his rookie year flashing superstar potential. New York is really riding that D-line. And their D overall has been pretty solid. Considering the injuries the Giants have had, they've been, bend but don't break, bend but don't break. But more than not, they've bended and not broken. So shout out to Wink Martindale for that. He's been a huge catalyst of that. Keeping offenses off balance, switching up blitzes. He's been blitzing like 50-60% of the time. You would think that would get a little bit routine and mundane for the opposing offense. No, Wink switches it up and he fires off, especially when he hits that corner blitz that he seems to love a lot. Giants started 7-2, right? Devastating rash of injuries. Things are not looking good. They go 0-3-1 in 4 games. Everybody's like, here come the same old Giants. We were expecting this. It's year 1, year 0 of the rebuild. But they have a huge victory in Washington that tremendously boosted their playoff chances. Went from 30 percentile to 90 percentile. And then last week, they go toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in the NFC, in the Minnesota Vikings. And it was a shame the Giants didn't win that. That was their game to win. They gave that game away several times, in my humble opinion. But they went toe-to-toe with one of the best teams, and it took a 61-yard field goal to beat them. True testament to the coaching staff, Brian Daboll, how this team has competed and won games this season. When you look at how they've won games, it's been through the rushing attack on the ground. They have not been able to stop the rushing attack on the other side, unfortunately, which is something that they're going to need to fix if they want to make a playoff run. But hey, kudos to this team. Kudos to this coaching staff. Joe Shane, Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, Dexter Lawrence. I could go on and on and on. Really impressive season regardless of what happens here on out. But here we are. Only thing standing between the Giants and the playoff berth are the 4-10-1 Colts. And Colts have not had a good season. Very difficult, actually. It's been shrouded in some puzzling moves by the Colts' passionate but sometimes impulsive owner, Jim Irsay. He pushed for the benching of Matt Ryan 2 weeks before he went and fired head coach Frank Reich. Well, you figure it, no big deal. Head coaches get fired all the time. I'm sure he brought someone in with a tremendous resume that's going to build his team back up. Nope. Brings in Jeff Saturday, who never coached past the high school level, and most recently was employed by ESPN as a TV analyst. Very, very dumbfounding move. Unorthodox hire. Is met with scrutiny inside the locker room, outside the locker room. Everywhere you've watched about this move. I mean, former Steelers Super Bowl winning head coach Bill Cowher was quoted as saying, "This move was a disgrace to the coaching profession." There you go. And I also felt strongly about him hiring Jim Saturday because there's tons of great coaches out there that get passed up on and never get that opportunity. And here comes Jeff Saturday. Green has never even coached in college. Here you go. Here's an NFL franchise. And he's responded pretty much how we thought he would respond. He won the first game versus the Raiders and then 0-5 since. So, hasn't been good on the field either. Colts started 3-2-1. Promising start. Had a big win over Kansas City, but the wheels fell off. And it started, I hate to say, right when they brought Jeff Saturday on. That's when that 5-game losing streak erupted. And there's been a couple reasons why, when you look at this Colts team, they lost Jonathan Taylor halfway through the season. That was their offensive stud. That was their bell cow, their workhorse. Not easy to win without him. QB play has been an issue for Indy all season, leading to Matt Ryan, the starter, being benched twice, including now. Nick Foles will start in place of Matt Ryan on Sunday. And Giants fans know Nick Foles very, very well. He's 3-0 against the Giants, unfortunately. but did not look good last week versus San Diego. Threw 3 interceptions and another 2 interceptions. Easy ones were dropped. So could have easily had 5 interceptions. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, versus Giants defense, especially the D-line. Colts have been averaging a paltry 6.5 points per game, 31st in the NFL. This offense struggles to score flat out. Also bottom 10 in rushing yards, yards per carry, 20-plus yard runs, and 40-plus yard runs. So they struggle to run the ball, which this could be a key because the Giants have struggled to stop the run. Them going up against a team that can't run the ball is very, very key here. And the Colts have not been able to run the ball at all. And it comes down to the offensive line. This is one of the worst offensive lines in football. Giants have had their struggles on the O-line, but this Colts O-line is a different breed. They've given up 56 sacks this season, 31st in the NFL. Equally have trouble opening up running lanes, as I just said. Even star guard Quentin Nelson is having a down year. He hasn't been himself. Obviously, they got some young guys on the offensive line. That's not always easy on the veteran star offensive linemen. The offensive line is a cohesive unit. And, looking at this team, defense against the run, they're pretty good defending the run. They only give up 4.1 yards per carry, which is 7th in the NFL. Through the air, pretty solid group. While they allow the highest completion percentage in the NFL, they've done a good job limiting chunk plays. They're ranked 6th in the NFL with 43 sacks on the season. And, I would say mediocre across the board, other than obviously offensive line and running the ball. Defense, they're kind of mediocre straight through the middle. Their rankings are about 15 to 20 on each category. Things really spiraled for this Colts team, really spiraled. They are dead last in the NFL with a minus 13 turnover differential. 13 fumbles, 17 interceptions against the Colts, and they have not forced turnovers. And anyone that knows the NFL, if you cannot win the turnover battle, you're most likely not going to win the football game. And minus 13 is a tough number to have, almost dead last in the league. So that's the Colts. On offense, struggle to pass the ball. They struggle to run the ball. They turn the ball over. The offensive line is in utter disaster right now. Defensively, they play a spirited brand of ball. They're very good against the run. They're very good against rushing quarterbacks. So Giants might, if I had to guess, I would think you see a game plan very similar to the Minnesota game, to where, the Giants throw it more often and they use the throw to set up the run instead of vice versa, because this Colts team is tough to run on, a lot easier to pass on, even though they're not terrible. But got to force the turnovers if you're the Giants. Got to get the sacks, right? So Indy's given up 56 sacks, 31st in the NFL. Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, Azeez Ojulari. I know a couple guys that are limited practice-wise. Go get it. This is a porous offensive line. You're going to be a great defensive line. You want to be one of the best defensive lines in football? Go get it. Pin your ears back. Take Nick Foles down multiple times. Get yourself a strip sack, fumble, turnover. Thibodeau, have yourself a party. Get yourself another hat trick. If this defensive line wants to be one of the best in the sport, this is a game to prove it. Winning in, you're going against the offensive line that's been spinning in place for the entire season. Take care of business. Okay. So before we get to the matchups, listen, I wanted to say this. When you look at this game on paper, clearly this is a game the Giants are favored in. I think they're favored by like 4 points. Where they're strong, the Colts are weak. This is a game the Giants should win, knock on wood. This is a game the Giants should win pretty handily. This is a game the Giants should be in control. But one thing we've seen this season is the Giants love one-score games. So it's hard to even go into a game saying this is going to be their best game of the season. They're going to score 30 points and win by 2 scores. But on paper, they should. Which leads me to my next point. As a new coaching staff, you have to prepare for the trap game. This Giants team hasn't experienced the possibility of a trap game the last 3-4 years. Daniel Jones hasn't experienced it. Saquon Barkley hasn't experienced it. So this is going to be an interesting test for the coaching staff, a true test. I personally believe the Giants romp in this game and win by a couple scores. This is a game for the taking. Giants are ascending. Huge win in Washington. Toe-to-toe in Minnesota against the great Minnesota Vikings team. Should have won. So this is a game the Giants should put on their shoulder. not make it a close one, get that vaunted ninth win, secure that playoff spot. Hope, Minnesota and San Fran switch a little bit so you don't have to get San Fran. But if it's San Fran, then you take them. But this is a game. You got to put your foot down if you're Giants. Don't kill yourselves. Don't shoot yourselves in the foot. Don't turn the ball over. Don't have stupid penalties, taunting penalties, illegal man downfield, illegal motion. Don't fumble the ball. Don't drop the ball. Giants have been killed with drops on offense and defense this year. That really hurt in that Minnesota game. I'm confident to say if the Giants don't go out and beat themselves Sunday, they romp versus the Colts, and they get in the playoffs. First time since 2016, in year one of a rebuild, when no one believed in Daniel Jones, no one believed he could carry the offense and he could play his part. No one believed Barkley could stay healthy, regain his rookie form. They both did. They both contributed, and this Giants team is prime right now for a playoff run. And before we go forward, drop your predictions. Nobody still won. Nobody has still guessed the score right. Drop those predictions in the comments. Who do you think's going to win? What's the score? I got something exclusive to give you if you guess the score. And, of course, possibly by the time you see this, it's going to be the new year. So happy new year to all my followers. I appreciate everybody, depending when you watch this. But I don't know if I have another video out before then or after. So happy new year to all my followers. Supporters, subscribers, really, really appreciate you guys. Don't forget to stop, drop, put those comments in the comment box. You win, you get something, you get it right. All right, next. So, injury report. Finally, we're starting to edge. Last couple of weeks, we're starting to edge to some positive injury progression here for the Giants. It's been a brutal season. We do these matchups every week together, and the Giants are always on the losing end of this injury report. Starting to get a little bit better here. So, Adoree Jackson practiced this week, limited. I would say Adoree plays this week. He was close versus Minnesota. Obviously, it was a shorter week. It was a Saturday game. I think Adoree plays this week. You have Azeez with the ankle, also practice limited. He sounded positive this week that he would play. Leonard Williams with the neck, also practice limited. So there you go. And guess who else was designated to return? X-Man, Xavier McKinney. He was out there catching some balls, throwing the ball around, looked pretty good. You probably won't see him back for another couple of weeks. Maybe Philly, if the Giants do secure a playoff berth, probably hold them out for the playoff run. But, you're getting healthy here if you're the Giants. Obviously, they've lost some guys they're not going to get back, unfortunately. But you're getting healthy. The Colts have more injuries. Wide receiver Ashton Doolin, tight end Keelan Granson, safety Ronnie McLeod, and cornerback Kenny Moore all did not practice or limited. So those could be some big misses for the Colts. But if you're a Giants fan, you got to be happy. You're going to be getting Adoree back. X is on the field. He's practicing. Well, not practicing, but, he's out there getting his motions on. So that's a very, very positive outcome and turnaround for the Giants. And it couldn't have come at a better time. Obviously, the Giants secondary has been exploited numerous times. I go back to the second Cowboys matchup where the Cowboys just attack the Giants secondary. Even the first Washington matchup, they attacked the secondary relentlessly with Dotson and McLaurin. Who knows how those games turn out if McKinney and Adoree are there. But doesn't matter at this point. Giants are looking forward. Guys are getting healthy, and it's just the right time. So, next we're going to get into matchups. First matchup is the Giants' defensive front against the Indy O-line. And on paper, this looks like a slaughter fest. Indy has one of the worst offensive lines in the league. Has given up a ton of sacks against one of the best defensive fronts in football. Giants hoping Leo and Azeez will play. I think they will. They're limited, but I think they'll play. The Colts, this is interesting. The Colts field the fourth most expensive offensive line in football, but are ranked 28th in the NFL in offensive line. That's interesting. So look for rookie edge rusher Kayvon Thibodeau to feast in this game. He'll be going against fellow rookie Bernard Ryman, who has 9 penalties called on him this season. Hopefully Tibbs gets some of those holding calls called on him finally. In the middle of that interior offensive line for Indy, you got Dexter Lawrence and Leo lined up against center Ryan Kelly and right guard Will Freeze, who have both struggled immensely. Dexter Lawrence has been an unstoppable force this year. 6.5 sacks, 92 PFF rating. He has been utterly dominant. No team has been able to stop him, and I look for that to continue this week. So that's a matchup I think the Giants could exploit. That's a matchup I think the Giants could easily win. Control the line of scrimmage. Shut the Colts running game down. Don't even let a running game get started. The Giants have seen teams get going against them with the run and pin their ears back. Don't even let the Colts get started. Stuff the run, tackles for a loss, dig right into these offensive linemen's chests. They're reeling. The season's over for the Colts. They're in tank mode. They're focused on 2023. Stomp them out. Send them to their grave. All right. Now, before we get on to the next matchup, any other matchup in this game is going to pale in comparison to the one I just mentioned, because I think this Giants defensive line is top notch. I think they could turn the tide of a game. I think they could dominate a game. But Giants offensive line against the Colts D-line. Colts D-line has actually produced 43 sacks this season, which is 6th in the NFL. And the Giants O-line has had their struggles, especially rookie Evan Neal, who's sporting a 42 PFF grade. I really hope Neal could get it going soon. I really do. His struggles have been hard to watch, on a week-to-week basis. His technique is not good. He doesn't seem to be fixing his technique. His shoulders get open wide. He's not staying parallel, sloppy feet. So hope Evan Neal gets it together. But Giants O-line has to protect. You've seen it last week versus Minnesota. They protected Daniel Jones. He was able to sit back and tee off. He had plenty of time. Outside of Evan Neal, I thought the pass blocking was excellent for the Giants. And you got to open holes for Barkley. He's a dynamic running back. But, dynamic running backs can't always do it on their own. So I look for this Giants offensive line to finally take a step forward. And what happens with the alignment with the Giants offensive line? I'm not sure what's this revolving door at left guard. And, Gates is at left guard. And Bredesen's at left guard. And, Feliciano's at center. The Giants offensive line should be Evan Neal at left tackle. Ben Bredesen at left guard. Right tackle, you're going to have Evan Neal. Right guard, you're going to have Glowinski, and then it should be Gates at center. I'm not sure what the issue is. I know Dable, Bobby Johnson, they like their bigger-bodied offensive linemen to lean on the D-line in the run game, tire them out late in the game. I want Gates in there at center. I think Gates could do a better job at center. Put him there next to Bredesen. I think that makes a lot more sense in the long run, honestly. You could see when Ben Bredesen comes in, he's a much more effective blocker. The team almost automatically starts moving the ball when Ben Bredesen comes in. Leave him in there. Don't take him out. Leave him in there. Feliciano did play good in the run game last week versus Minnesota. He did open up some holes, especially on that last run by Saquon on 4th and 2 to get within 2 points. But I think the proper alignment is Bredesen left guard, Nick Gates center. So that's it for matchups. I'm also looking for, the Giants rushing attack to play better because, last week was a passing attack. I hope this week, if they do choose to run, it's a more efficient running game. Hasn't been great. It seems like they gotten their swagger back a little bit. Need to have an effective running game, especially when you start getting late into December, early January. Colts run D has done a pretty good job. Like I said, only 4.1 yards per carry to running backs, 3.8 yards per carry to quarterbacks. And lastly, Daniel Jones always comes down to the quarterback, right? Colts have given up a 97.8 rating to quarterbacks. Brutal. 68.1% completions to quarterbacks, 31st in the league, and they're 26th in the NFL with interceptions, with only 8. So this secondary can be had. That's why I said I think you see a very similar offensive game plan to what we've seen in Minnesota, where the Giants use the pass to set up the run. And I think the Giants are going to be successful. Prediction time. I'm going to give my prediction. I think the Giants win this one. I'm going to go 30-14. This is it. This is the Giants' time. They've worked hard all season. They've defied the odds, the naysayers. They start the season with a rousing upset victory in Tennessee. And here we go. Only 2 games left, and it was year 1 of a rebuild. 0 money to spend. Who's going to be your quarterback in 2 years? Who's going to be your running back? You can't bring these guys back. They get injured. They don't perform. Well, the lights have been pretty bright the last 2-3 weeks, and the 2 stars of this team, 3 stars, Jones, Barkley, and Dexter Lawrence, have performed. So I think some questions have been answered. Obviously, in the offseason, we'll talk contract. We'll get into all that stuff. I am super excited as someone that's watched this team grow to see Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau even play meaningful football under the lights. You know why? Because under the lights, meaningful football with the playoffs on the line, that's when you see average players become good. That's where you see good players become great and great players become legendary. So I'm super pumped for this team. Amazing opportunity in front of them. Very, very simple scenario. Win and in. That's it for today's show. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Drop some cool comments. I love engaging with you guys and gals. Check me out on Twitter, TommyG105. Check out my Giants Country team. Always pumping out hot content. And let's hope next Tommy's Takes will be a playoff edition. Peace.